Well, thank you, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Greer, during the last administration, trade policy seemed to be treated as an abstract concept. Not really an opportunity for America to gain market share, to make our people wealthier. If anything, trade policy was something that where we were consistently in a defensive crouch. It screamed insecurity. It screamed weakness, and I'm certainly expecting better from this muscular administration as it relates to trade policy. Ignoring trade doesn't make us stronger. It cedes ground. It cedes ground when we are actively looking for partners and allies to help us shore up our supply chain by building redundancies. It cedes all sorts of economic ground. I've introduced a Strategic Minerals Act. We introduced it yesterday that would give this president and future presidents more authority when it comes to renegotiating sector-specific free trade agreements, focused exclusively, in this case, on critical minerals and rare earth elements. We need these. We don't have them in the ground here. So we need to trade in order to get access to them. My legislation is designed to bolster cooperation. We're looking for vectors of cooperation with friends and allies, to eliminate barriers, to enhance our nation's economic security so we're not starved of essentials as we were recently during the pandemic. Mr. Greer, you've expressed support for sectoral trade agreements in the past. If confirmed, which countries and sectors do you see as the most viable for securing market-opening trade deals that will uplift American businesses and workers? And how will you ensure that the United States is no longer shut out of critical supply chains?
Senator, I appreciate your views on this and the conversation we had in your office. I'll note at the top that the President's trade policy memorandum that he set out 2 weeks ago, one of the things he talked about was considering whether bilateral or sectoral agreements might make sense in some areas. And I spoke earlier with Senator Johnson about some of the key supply chains that I worry about, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, critical minerals, rare earth. I think those all fall into that.
Yes.
I want to be very careful when we're talking about trade agreements because I don't want to be in the position of going to a country that has a $50 billion trade surplus already and they want us to pull down our tariffs on trucks and cars for them. Like that to me is not the kind of trade I want.
Understood.
But if there is a sectoral agreement with like-minded countries who are aligned with us on, security, rule of law, things like that, those are the kinds of places where I think we should focus.
Excellent. Well, I'm encouraged by that response. Given the limitations of executive agreements, they only last for the duration of a president's term. In this case, it would, of course, be 4 years. And the necessity of congressional approval for binding market access deals, do you believe USTR would be in a stronger position if Congress provided a clear legislative framework similar to TPA, but tailored for sector-specific agreements like those for critical minerals?
Senator, I want to think about that because I think that's creative. I think that any trade agreement that the USTR might bring to Congress, I want to have full support, right? I mean, at USMCA, we had 89 senators vote for it. Yep. We had almost 400 folks in the House vote for it. That's the level of support I want. And if Congress thinks that a legislative framework will help with that, I'm happy to talk about what makes sense.
Okay. A related topic of great interest to me because the United States is so sophisticated when it comes to the digital economy is digital trade. There's a geopolitical overlay to our engagement with other countries, our tearing down barriers to our digital products. And that overlay is essentially if we embed in our products our values, privacy rights, consumer protection, transparency, all the things Americans value, then if the Chinese or others want to sell into our large economy allied countries or the United States, they need to abide by our values. So that's really exciting. But there's, of course, an economic dimension to this as well. Here again, the previous administration did nothing despite bipartisan support for expanding digital trade access. Instead, they played defense the whole time, thinking trade was a four-letter word. Mr. Greer, if confirmed, how will you work to prevent the discriminatory treatment of U.S. companies in key global markets and ensure they're competing on a level playing field when it comes to digital trade?
Senator, in the first Trump administration, we took action under Section 301 to combat discriminatory digital services taxes. I know there are many jurisdictions in the world right now that are doing this and other measures to try to control the business models of our digital champions. And I want to make sure that if anybody's regulating our digital companies, it's going to be us, and they can't discriminate against it. And I think that we need to explore using Section 301 and other measures to make sure that we're able to stay competitive globally.
And I look forward to working with you towards that objective. Thank you so much.
Thank you.